is Aisha.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Label Podcast, this time via our video series.
Something new, but something light and also still fun.
And really similar to our regular podcast format. You just can see us this time.
Yeah.
So why did we decide to make a video podcast format?
You're asking.
I'm asking you to tell them. I mean, I know why.
So we did a video, we're doing video format because we think it's going to be beneficial for us to practice what we preach. We always tell our clients that you need more long form content, interesting content, something to show your personality, who you are, and get people to buy into your brand. So we get tons of great reviews on the podcast. And a lot of people love that we banter, so why not watch that in real time on TV?
Yeah, watch us banter in real time, and also it's really, like Aisha said, building out that content. This is so bad, but we spend so much time focusing on everybody else's stuff. We have a YouTube channel with one video. It's our promo video, but by the time this comes out, you'll start seeing the build out of more content. But we're like, we really need to practice what we preach, and every time we do that as a business, the success and the amount of new business that comes towards us toward us is just times 10.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Practicing what you preach does
wonders.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. This is a little bit different than our typical podcast structure, and that we'll do life updates. This time we're just gonna ask questions. So the first question is, what is your worst airport experience? Because I know you have a ton. Like literally every time I pick her up from the airport, she's like, and I'm like, why are we huffing and puffing? What happened today?
Oh my gosh. I travel a lot. And I've just really learned that you have to be very, very, very patient. Most recently, I booked a flight to the wrong city. And literally I did not realize it until I was on my layover. So I went
why don't I know about this?
Because I was so upset this day, like literally devastatingly upset that I couldn't even talk about it. This is the day that you picked me up this is only like 3 weeks ago. It's the day that you picked me up from the airport, and I was crying in the airport. It was so awful. And she was like, what's wrong with you? So I had a family emergency. And I was in Detroit, but I needed to come back to Phoenix for a work thing, and it was really last minute. Like I booked my flight maybe the night before, and my mind just was not right. So I booked a flight, thought I booked it to Phoenix, and thought I had a layover in Chicago. And so I use Clear, so I just go straight through security. Like I just, I'm like, I just have a layover in Chicago, it's fine. So I get on the flight, get to Chicago, obviously one of the busiest airports in the US. And then my next boarding pass, because you know how like on your phone boarding pass, like it'll just like tell you'll have one for like the first city and then a whole new boarding pass for the next city, just like a paper boarding pass, I guess, but I never printed the paper boarding pass. So I'm looking at my next boarding pass that automatically pops up on my phone when I'm in Chicago, and it says Chicago to Sacramento, which is where I'm originally from. It was awful. Literally the most awful thing ever in the whole entire world. I was crying in the airport. Like they make you repurchase a bunch of stuff. Like they were like, how did this happen? This has never happened to anyone. How did you book your ticket to the wrong city? And then when you get on your layover, you don't realize until like you actually got on your first plane already. They're like, we're sorry, ma'am. You already are on your flight. So it was awful.
Wow.
She came to pick me up, and she was like, what happened? I was like, honestly, I can't even talk about it.
Wow. Only you.
Yeah.
Only you.
But my dad told me he had done it too.
Only your genes.
Yeah, only that's what happens. Like you have bad luck when you start to travel a lot, I guess. What about you?
My worst airport experience was a couple years ago. I was on a plane to LA, and there was a mom and a kid behind me, and the kid was getting super restless and was like, basically he wanted to get off the plane. We were taxiing probably for like an hour to 45 minutes, and he was complaining, and like I get it, it's irritated, but you can tell like she was really trying to like not like blow him up in front of people, but like get him to calm down. And he was just like whining, and she was like, if you keep whining, like I'm gonna tell your dad, and your dad, like I'm gonna call your dad. Like she even got to the point where she called his dad on the phone, and his dad was like, it was on speaker, and he was like, son, enough, like you need to be nice to your mom, da 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 da. Anyways, he's still whining and complaining. They get off the phone, and I'm like, this poor mom is like, I felt bad for her. Anyways, I glanced over at the lady next to me, and she's typing in her phone. She does like a voice note so you can hear the background. And so she sends a voice note, and I'm like, I wonder, like she's not even talking. And I realize what she's doing. She's sending a voice note to the kid, and then she puts, what race?
Stop.
Swear. And at that point, I hadn't seen the person behind me.
Right.
So I'm like, if the person behind me is black, I'm gonna be pissed.
And of course, the person behind you was black.
Yeah. And so I told her, I said, why are you doing that? And she was like, doing what? I was like, I saw what you did. I saw what you're writing your friend. You said, what race? I will turn around and tell her. But I didn't want to tell the mom because the kid was right there, and like that might have been a traumatizing experience.
Right.
I don't even know. Then the lady next to me was like, don't worry, just people are like that these days. And I was like, no, that's not okay. Tell her, you're so bold, show her your phone.
You were telling her this?
Yes. And then I even took a picture of her thing, because then she like got super bold and was like, I don't care. And then I was like, cool. So I was like on my phone, posted it to social media, like I was so upset. And she was like, I run a nonprofit. I'm not racist.
I hate when people say that. I literally cannot stand when people say that. Or they'll be like, oh, my best friend is black. I'm not racist. Like, it's not. You're.
So then I was like, well, you should be fired from your nonprofit. What's your name? What's your name? Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to, but I was acting like I was taking pictures of her face to like put it. She was so. And mind you, like, in the airport, like, I mean, in the seats, you're like this with people.
Right,
so we're like closer than you and I right now,
right.
And I'm telling her about herself. And it took so much in me to not tell the lady behind me, because I'm like, I'm already gonna ruin her day, because it's already, like, she's struggling.
Her bad kid.
Yeah. And this lady's just, anyway, so it was just so bad. And I was like, oh, I was livid. Anyway, so that was one of the worst.
That's a pretty bad airport story. That's a pretty bad airport.
Anyways, to what we're talking about today, which is
IG likes disappearing, the like count disappearing from your profile. So this is a new rollout that Instagram is doing, and by the time this episode comes out, a lot of you may have already been seeing the testing happening. So we just want to talk about how you can adapt to this personally, how you can adapt to this as a business, how you can monetize as an influencer still and not allow it to affect your income as much, and how you can really be strategic about it.
Yes, because that's important. A lot of stuff will continue to change in social media, in that it's becoming such a huge part of our world today. So knowing that you can adapt, knowing that you should adapt, and knowing how to adapt is going to be super important. So that's what we're going to get into today.
Yeah, so before we get there, I just want to explain how the like feature will happen or will look to you. So it will show up, it will look just like your Instagram stream or feed is going to look the exact same as it already looks, with the exception of, you know how it will say Aisha plus 35 other people liked it, and it'll have like the number 35. Now it will just say like Aisha and others liked it, and then you can click on it and it'll say everybody else who likes the photo. On the back end, you will have those analytical numbers that say how many people liked your photo, but everybody else seeing your profile will not see those numbers. So that's just a little breakdown of what we'll expect to see.
We have a visual example on our Instagram account. We were lucky enough to have some friends in Canada, where the rollout originally started. Canada and a handful of other countries.
Yeah.
So we have a real life example of what that looks like on social. We'll be sure to link it below for you to see.
Yes. So I think there's been so much talk, because this is one of the hugest changes that have happened on Instagram, probably within the last 2 or 3 years, I would say. Would you say? Or maybe even ever, honestly.
No, I think the chronological order is probably a really big one that people care about.
So the chronological order was probably like 2.5, 3 years ago.
Was it?
Yeah, 2 years at least.
Yeah. A big change.
Yeah, it's a big change, and I think there's a lot of people talking about it. There's a lot of celebrities talking. There's a lot of influencers talking about it. Recently, Nicki Minaj, she was trying to explain her opinion on why she thinks Facebook, which is owned by Instagram, is changing the way that this looks to consumers. Well, first of all, Facebook is saying that they're changing it for morality reasons, right? So morality and vanity reasons. Basically, so people aren't getting caught up on the number of people who are liking photos of themselves or their content, wherever that is, and focusing more on the content to stop essentially like bullying and
vanity metrics, which is in line with what they have done in the past. So some people don't have this feature yet, but they've made the follower count a lot smaller. They've taken that like 10,599 and put a K by it, but still somehow it's still a huge vanity metric that people pay attention to, but it's not off base with what they've been trying to do.
Yeah.
So
Nicki Minaj was saying how she believes that Instagram is doing it for monetization purposes on their end. So basically, anybody who wants to know their analytics behind a post, so the number of likes you have, which affects your engagement, because engagement is the likes plus comments on your post, on your posting. And so on the back end, nobody else can see that besides you and Instagram. So she believes that they're using it as another form to control advertisement. So when advertisers come to influencers, when advertisers come to basically businesses, anybody that's trying to make money on the platform, they have to go through Facebook or Instagram in order to get those analytics. She makes a strong point, and that probably is exactly what they're doing.
I don't disagree with her. There was some things that she said in there that I was like, not too sure, but I definitely think what we've noticed in social is the moment that someone else starts to monetize off of the platform, that platform adjusts and adds that thing in-house. So right now, I think, and one of the other arguments that she was making was that they're kind of taking away the autonomy from influencers. Influencers have a lot of power to create their own business on social, but they need social for that business. So what they're saying is that they want to hide the like, or what Nicki Minaj is saying is that hiding the likes makes businesses advertise in other avenues. Or, like Des is saying, rely on Instagram to get those analytics on the back end.
Which could end up becoming like a paid feature that they offer. But I just want to touch back on what you were just saying about, I want to make sure we're very clear on what we mean by relying on other elements or other types of advertisement rather than influencer marketing, right? So if you can't trust what your influencers following and engagement is, a lot of people who are spending those dollars, actually businesses or people who are spending any type of money on Instagram, but with influencers particularly, because it is such like almost like a small business, you are really working directly with that influencer, or in some cases with an agency, in order to provide those analytics. If that becomes less trustworthy, businesses and people investing in the influencers are going to start going to Facebook, where they can directly see their money. They can directly see the clicks, the cost per click.
But before then, you can directly target that exact consumer that you want and target the behaviors that transition into purchasing decisions for your product.
Right.
So it's taking a little bit of power from influencers and putting your trust back into where you can buy ads, because that's their like highest stream of revenue, Facebook.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's chat about how this, if at all, would hurt influencers.
I think there's a lot of opinions on this. I personally don't think it's going to affect influencers unless I personally don't think it will affect influencers in the way that influencers will just need to strategize. It's just readapting. I think you have a little bit different of an opinion on this.
Yes, I think that it takes away, if you don't transition, it could take away from your credibility, right? So people find credibility in a lot of places on your profile. It's your follower count, it's your likes, it's your comments, it's your originality in your photos, it's how active you are on social. It's a lot of elements, but I do think that the likes on a photo is some form of credibility. And we said that we were going to tell you how to adapt. My personal opinion is the next vanity metric or the next form of credibility is going to be in the comment section. So that means that as an influencer, to not get left behind, you need to continue encourage call to actions. And call to actions is just prompting whomever is reading your caption to take action. So you want them to comment, you want them to share, whatever it is that you want them to do, but encourage them, and most importantly, to comment, because that is what will give you that, like, that's the only other number that you have when it comes to engaging on a photo, because there is still, like, click to see all 3,596 comments. Right. So,
and also, just to pause there, when you are commenting, you want to be sure that you're writing more or encouraging your followers to write more than, oh my God, you're so pretty. Especially when you are working with these brand collaborations and partnerships, because even now when we are working on influencer marketing campaigns, I'm looking at what the influencers, in addition to the likes numbers and the comments, I'm also looking at the type of comments that the influencers are getting. If you are advertising a toothpaste and all of your followers are just like, oh my gosh, your eyes are so pretty, or oh my gosh, even you're so pretty, that's not telling me that you're engaging, that your audience is engaging with, you know, asking questions about the product or wondering about the product or whatever that might be, using products similar to it or whatever that is.
In short, it doesn't mean that you have influence. Like, being an influencer means that you can influence people's purchasing, making decisions. At the end of the day, you're pushing consumerism. If you have a bunch of comments that are only talking about, like, your looks, people might think you're really pretty, but are you an influencer? Maybe not. Or you could be, but whatever product that you're pushing is not what your audience wants to see. So that's important to know that.
Yeah. And that will become way more important now that, you know, we're losing a metric.
Yeah. And the last thing that I will say about influencership and promoting comments that are meaningful to whatever it is that you're talking about. Another reason why we check out the comment section is because a lot of influencers participate in comment bots, paid comment bots, like their little group comment pods. So if you are in a comment pod and you and all 50 other influencers are like, okay, an hour after I post this photo, I need everyone to go engage. Not often are they engaging in substantively, basically. And even though that pushes up your engagement rate, that doesn't mean that you are an influential person online.
Yeah, agreed. So basically, how can you encourage people to engage in your content? How can you strategize your content in order? You're really going to have to, I would say, rely on creating really, really great content, long form content like this that leads to your IGTV, or what, even off of the platform. Like we always say, we always want you to get your followers off of your platform, offer brands somewhere else for them to monetize, for you to be able to monetize and for them to be able to advertise. So if you get your followers off your platform, get them onto an email marketing list, then that's another thing that you are able to basically sell to the brand. Like, hey, I can advertise your product by sending out an email to all of my followers in addition to posting on my page.
Yeah, but if we go back to actionable items that an influencer or business can do to combat the likes removing, one thing I would say that it's twofold. The first thing is that the social media community, Instagram particularly, you cannot just take from it. And when I say take, I mean you cannot just post and then expect you to have like a rapid fire engagement. You also have to engage with people, and that because that engagement triggers Instagram it triggers Instagram that you and whomever you're engaging with wants to see your content. So before you even get to long form content, before you even get to podcasting, before you even get to anything else outside of like posting your regular posts, you need to engage with people so that more people can see your content. If you're not engaging and you're just pushing stuff out, it doesn't even matter because it'll fall on deaf ears because Instagram doesn't think that anybody wants to see what you're talking about.
Yeah. And that's just to say that that's working. I just want to simplify that a little bit. That is working with the algorithm of Instagram. That's how the algorithm works.
And we have a whole podcast on the algorithm because there's not enough time in today's episode.
No, there's not.
But you have to engage. Second is create that long form content and encourage people to comment substantively on your comments. So that is actionable takeaways for influencers, for businesses, individuals, everybody. Now, we're gonna wrap out. This will be a nice short adios. You can follow us on social media at creative.label. You can follow our podcast, The Label Podcast, on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. And yeah, if you have any questions, ask in the comments. DM us. We are available for answers. People DM us all the time, really great questions. And when they do, we usually create podcast episodes on it. So be sure to ask.
Bye. See you guys later.
Bye.